my wheelhouse here, what we're doing on the business side. So first, I just want to tell you a little bit about Graepel, what we do and why we got here and what this is about. So you see many holes punched into metal here. So, and that's really in a nutshell what we're doing. So that doesn't sound that sexy and interesting in the beginning, but you will see there's quite a bit of know-how and quite some stories to tell about that. So Graepel is a German company, and as we talk about perforated metals, I'll just show you a few pictures from our areas of expertise where we're in with our parts. So we're basically in a classic OEM part supplier. So all our components that we make out of perforated metal, they end up in all kinds of different applications. So we'll have that in all kinds of different industries. So the top four ones over here: ag machinery, construction equipment, heavy duty trucks, automotive. So this is mainly where most of our components go. We also have industrial applications, just as rail cars, tanker trucks, plant construction. We do a lot of paint and surface coatings as well for our parts. So these four segments and four industries is really where we are at home. And here's just a few examples where you can see and find our parts. Of course, it never says Graepel on it, but you can pretty much assume if you see a tractor, the front of a tractor, there's always a grill screen that protects basically the engine and makes sure we have enough protection for the cooling systems and airflow going through those machines. That's where usually you see a Graepel part, and these machines get more and more sophisticated, more and more fancy. So we'll making all kinds of interesting shapes and designs for those tractors. Yeah, you think it's a tractor, but you know, the farmers are also getting more antsy about new designs and interesting styles. So we're doing a lot of crazy stuff these days with those parts. And our parts are also on combines. We make parts for the tractors, running boards, and platforms for seating equipment. Some of those just small little components on those machines that are, you know, across the board important for the functionality of those machines. Here you see some examples on the construction equipment side, and we do it pretty much for all like the big names that are out there. So whenever you look at a construction site, there's always a part like this, or a screen here, or a component back there inside a wheel loader, or there are steps where you need to get into a machine. It is very likely that this part comes from Graepel. Trucking industry, similar components. As said earlier, we love to make a lot of holes. So all of these grill screens, sometimes when they're out of metal, those are made by Graepel. We have those platforms on those trucks. So these two pictures are kind of exciting in this particular point in time. Because when you look the next time when your Amazon package or your UPS delivery driver stops by, it's very likely that on one of those trucks or those delivery vans, the step that the driver steps in and out of the car or the van on the side will be a Graepel step. So it's basically an access step that's on the side of the vehicle as well as on the back of the vehicle. Little detail that, you know, most of us don't even notice, but pretty important and critical for making sure we get our packages delivered in a day or two or minutes, or what we expect these days. A little more about what we do for the automotive industry. So this is kind of the fun stuff we're doing. So parts and grill screens for sports cars. This was our initial project that we acquired here in the US with Honda and Acura. So for this hypercar, we make all these perforated components that are around the engine bay, They are here on the side because it's a mid-engine car. So the airflow has to go around the car, inside the car, and we make that perforated screen here, which is a protection and of course also a design element. So there's about 8 parts on this car. And from this project, we got more and more in automotive. So if you're buying a new Corvette, there's screens for Graepel on that one as well. And if you want to spend a little more money and you do McLaren, Lamborghini, and these others, so there's a few pieces here and there from Graepel as well. So quite an exciting industry business field, but shows a lot of appreciation from the big OEM customers for a fairly small company like ours that we can deliver and make those parts for them. Then we do some heavy industrial equipment. So this is for rail cars here. So you have those running boards on those hopper cars that are for grain transportation used. So miles and miles on top of these rail cars. So when you're waiting next time in front of your railroad crossing, you see those cars driving by. There's miles and miles of this perforated material on top of there. So it's everywhere, and it's quite interesting because nobody really knows so much about Graepel and much about our name and what we're actually doing. But if you look close, you see our parts in many, many different places. So a little bit about where we originated, where we're coming from. So unique about us, we're a family-owned company. So we are around since 1889, operated, and in the 4th generation. We have 5 locations now worldwide. So started out in Germany. So we are in the northwestern part of Germany. I'm from the Bremen area, so between Bremen and Osnabrück. That's where the small town of Löning is located. That's the area where I grew up, and we are basically, I started out for Graepel right after high school in 1997, and basically went through an dual study and an apprenticeship program over there, doing kind of different roles. So I was in all kinds of different departments during my education, then ended up graduating from a private university there with an MBA, and then had the opportunity to work in controlling and sales for a while. In 2006, an opportunity came up to move to the US and develop the business into the US. So that's a little bit about my story and Graepel's story. So right now we're proud that we are in 3 locations or 3 continents. We have a plant in the US, obviously, here in Omaha, and we have a plant now in India, which is in Chandigarh, north of Delhi. So we're the only perforated metal company that supplies OEM parts right now that is in 3 continents. So that's quite an accomplishment for us. And then most of you probably ask, how do they do that? So we're not only making parts, so we're really doing everything from the development to the just-in-time delivery. So we kind of pride ourselves that we do all these steps and make sure that comes out of one hand. We have to have, because of the geographical situation, outsource the one or the other process, but we're trying to offer our customer everything out of one hand, give him a one-stop shop for all his needs. And yeah, we're growing pretty rapidly with that concept because we're not just taking a drawing and making the parts, we're going all the way out and support with design, engineering, and go all the way to logistics concepts. And then we do that on a global basis. So that's a really important thing for us. It helps us growing. A little bit about the history. I said family owned. So all these guys here that you see on the pictures are Graepel guys. So if you wonder where the name comes from, that is a family name. Hugo Graepel, 1889, started making first perforated parts for sieves for harvesting machines, basically the first combines, so to say. That's where he started out with making parts. And then Graepel went from the origins were actually in Budapest, in Hungary. That's where they started out. And then in 1909, they moved to Germany. As we all know, there's a couple of world wars here in between that time frame. And they started in 1948 in Löning, the town in the northwestern part of Germany, with their operations. And that's where the headquarters is still today. 1991, after the German reunification, we purchased a company in Graepel in Seehausen. So that company is now our second largest facility over in Germany. And then we did 2006, the US, and in 2017, we did India. And since 2013 and 2015, we have Carlo and Felix Graepel with us, and they are running the company today. So I report to these two gentlemen that own and run the family business at this time. So a little bit about our road to Omaha, Nebraska. So how did we end up here and why Nebraska? And many people ask me that all the time. So, I mean, obviously the area here is heavily known for its agricultural powerhouse and equipment manufacturers. And that was way back in the 90s. We started making the first components for certain large OEM tractor and combine manufacturers that were used on equipment in Europe as well as in the US. So the parts were developed over there, and then they shipped to Europe and they shipped to the US. So this kind of 1993 was really like the first serial production parts that were made in Germany by Graepel, and they shipped to the US. So that's really where it all started, and the first business relationships with the US started. And imagine that by that time, when we shipped the first parts and we reached out and had the first supplies here into the United States, the Nebraska Department of Economic Development already started, reaching out to Graepel and introducing the state and the opportunities and so on and so forth for a potential investment or potential site in the US. And at that time we didn't even think about that. We handled everything from Germany at the time, so that wasn't even a concern at that point. However, as the business grew, more and more challenges came up. So many of you probably know it because from their own companies, and we talked about communication with Germany in the morning earlier today, and how that goes. Everybody who has a German partner knows how that goes. So communication is not that easy. I mean, you have the time zone difference, you have the language barriers, you have the responsiveness issue because you have, a day or more in lag there. That was a challenge as the business grew. So our US customers asking for quicker responses there. We had the long lead times on the production side. So we have to make everything in Germany, pack it into container, ship it over. Transport time, if a container is fast, it's here in like 4 weeks, if you're lucky, 3 weeks. But right now, with everything being congested, it's more like 8 weeks, sometimes 10 weeks. So that's a long time until the parts are here, and very, very challenging to keep the supply chains going. So our ability to react, especially when there was a quality issue and we messed up, or there was a design problem or something like that, was almost like impossible. You had to fix something, do air freights, fly people over all the time. So that was really long-term not an option for us anymore. So customers ask us basically, would you be willing to put come to the US, put a contact here, put a warehouse here, or something like that. That's when we kind of started thinking about it. So between 2005 and 2010, actually a lot of things changed and happened here. So we had in 2005 the first project and the first business with Claas in Omaha. So Claas, I don't know if you know that they are a large ag equipment manufacturer from Germany. They are a large combine manufacturer. They have picked Omaha as their North American headquarters almost 10 years before we did. And they were a customer of ours, so we shipped them parts and components. But in 2005, we actually had the first larger assembly, and we couldn't ship the assembly from Germany, so we shipped the components and had picked out a local subcontractor that did that for us. So the assembly and the welding, and that's kind of how more attention from our side came into Nebraska. So Claas was there. They told us their story, how they got here, how they built the business. And at the time, we had a managing director that worked for Klaus Macking, and he knew Nebraska as well. So we basically had that on the radar at that time to look in that area as a potential location for us. So what changed when we decided in 2005 to have this letter made in the US? We decided, okay, now it would be a good time to bring somebody over as customers. We're asking for that, to have a permanent contact. So I got that opportunity at the time in Germany to come over. So I remember I told my wife sometime in September of 2005, hey, I have this chance to go to the US. You don't want to sit in that controlling seat and crunch Excel spreadsheets every day. So let's do something. We didn't have any kids at the time. We were in a rented apartment, and we bounced that idea around quite a bit, and it took us a while to think about it. My wife was on board with the decision to go for Graepel to Nebraska, and then we did it. So early 2006, we arrived here with basically 2 suitcases, and we knew one person, Phil Michael from the Economic Development Department in Nebraska. And that's how we started the business. A couple of weeks later, I already had this nice leased building here. So there was my office. So behind that window was really like one desk and one chair. That of course I had to buy because there was nobody else that did that for me. So we had to rent the building and get started. So, and then it was a small warehouse, and we basically had that phone number and that address in the US, and this is kind of how we started out. And that was our beginning, or our origin in Nebraska. So many of you guys probably ask, so why Omaha? So why Nebraska? So why do you start there? Well, first, we looked at the map, right? We knew our customers were there, but we figured out pretty quickly that location is working out really well. So all our customers are basically around us. I must say it's probably more to the East Coast side, or the eastern side and the southern side, than to the west. But overall, we still see this as an excellent location. The infrastructure is great. There's the site availability. We had plenty of options, greenfield, brownfield, leasing buildings, all kinds of things were available. And the state did a great job on, showing us all these options and bringing us over there. Of course, there's incentives as well. As every state has incentives, some better, some worse. We looked at that as well. We like that Nebraska is on this side, right of work state. So so far we haven't had any issues there with that. So we are pretty happy and proud of our workforce here. So no issues there. So what was the decisive factors really, and I kind of alluded already to that, was commitment to our customers. Yes, we're doing something. Yes, we're establishing something in the US. You will have somebody to talk to. We really like the workforce and the work ethic that we find here. And I'm 15 years old here, and I still think that is a case. It's hard to find workers, so don't get me wrong. It's like a big problem to find workers, but we find a lot of, when we find them, we also find a lot of good ones. We had the reference from class, and we must say Nebraska is really business friendly, and we have a lot of support from the state. In fact, when I opened that small sales office, one-man show, the governor showed up for the ribbon cutting. So that has impressed me. I mean, there's one guy from Germany opening a building that you leased for like, I don't know, what was it like $3,000 or something like that. And then the governor shows up for the ribbon cutting. So that was very impressive. And that really was very well received also from the guys in Germany. And my boss from Germany came, of course, and we did that. And yeah, with all the expansions that I will talk about now, guess what? The governor showed up each individual time. It was not the same one, it's for changes there, but they showed up and they were there. So 2011, I had enough business generated just by calling, and there was a lot of cold calling on customers introducing us. And we had enough to start production. So there was really enough volume that we said, well, we can start making those parts now in the US. We don't have to ship them all from Germany anymore. So we did that, got the first orders. And I remember when the first orders came in, we were really like, oh shit, so how are we gonna do this now? Because it's getting tight. So we don't have the engineering know-how, we don't have the product know-how, we don't have all of that. We kind of basically had to start from scratch. And I had, since 2009, I had one engineer. So from 2006 to 2009, I was alone. And in 2009, Christian, who was on the phone here, came and helped me. And he had brought the technical know-how into the company. And then we started, basically the two of us, building up this place and building up the production. So first with German engineers, German production staff, German equipment, all of that, because there was no way for us to train US staff in the beginning and go there. So that was our game plan, and it worked out. So we were able to ship and deliver first parts in 2011 to our customers, and it really took off. Like, with just being able to show you have a production going in the US, you can invite customers, you can show them what you do, that is real, that it's not all coming from Germany. Our business really took off. So just a couple of years later, 2014, we outgrew that building again. And we purchased here 7 acres of land and put another 40,000 square foot building on it, customized to our own needs. There's another thing. So this was really the first test here of how things would go in terms of building a building and so on and so forth. We planned this building. I remember that we planned this building in February of 2014. That was the planning, and we moved in October 1st of 2014. That was really like from, yeah, almost a cornfield to putting up this nice facility there. So that was impressive, with all the contractors and all the building permits and support from state and legal and you name it. I think that would never been possible in Germany. And we built a plant in India. I think it took us 2 years or something like that. So we had a little internal competition. So we're still leading the pack here. So Nebraska is still the place to go. Yeah, with that, our customer base in ag, construction equipment and trucks really started taking off. That was our focus, and that's where we stayed with. And we expanded into automotive and rail industries here because we saw that there's a lot of need for perforated metal. So that really helped us growing that business. And I want to talk a little bit about what our main success factors are, and open that also up for questions later and discussion. So I think the big advantage that we had was we had a family-owned German company. So the mindset and the thinking is more in decades, not in quarters. I mean, the company is 130 years old. So even the leadership right now, they're thinking really long-term on that in everything we do. And we're not on a fast growth strategy, really. It's all organic. It's all within Graepel, so we don't, buy companies or look into M&As at all. Trying to do it on our own takes longer, but it's going well. Market side, I would say what we do really well is we have a very, very good knowledge in our niche product. I mean, it's a niche product, but it's used across many industries, as you saw. But we're staying within that. We're not all of a sudden, even with our equipment, we could do other stuff, but we're not doing that. We have opportunities sometimes to offer something else for customers that we could also do, but we always stay with that perforated metal, which is our main focus on our main competency. And throughout the years that we were here, there were many left and right opportunities. Never did that, and we're thankful that we stayed with that, and that's also our strategy going forward. OEM customer focus. So as I said, this whole chain, like we're trying to get involved and get our customers, get to our customers very early. So if like John Deere or Echo or Claas or CNH or whoever, if they design a new tractor, we already try to reach out and keep in contact with the engineers, with the product development team, and support them with our know-how for our specific parts in that process. So also doing prototypes for them and tooling. There's years before a part goes from design into a serial production. So the engineers or the project managers that I have here, they have all projects on the table that are several years out. So they're working on stuff that's coming to us in 2023, 24, 25, or even later than that. Everything that's in production has been designed and developed 3 to 5 years before that. So we make that extra step, make that investment, but it's a very successful strategy for us. Yeah, and with that, we're striving for a long-term partnership. Yeah, and we of course advertise with our German engineering, quality, commitment, all of that. But we're thinking long-term. Really, it's very important to keep up those customer relationships and have them in good standing, and making sure that when they see a perforated part, that they're thinking about Graepel. People, another success factor here, we would say we found the right workforce, and we're still finding the right work ethic here in Nebraska. So the people that we find here, the people that we have on board, that we have developed over time, has been very successful. So we started out with, remember I mentioned that, with a lot of Germans here. So turns out over time, Nebraska was not for everyone. So people stayed here for several years and moved back. So I have on my team right now, we have 47 employees at this time. So I have 3 Germans. That's all that's left here. So the rest is all from here, and US citizens and from the region. So we're able to pass on that knowledge over time to these people, and we're able to do our own thing and learn more and more of our specific know-how in our expertise. We continue to invest in people and education. So we started working really close with the German American Chamber. I hope you guys are all familiar with the ICATT program. So it's an excellent apprenticeship program that I don't have to explain to you. I think you know how that works. So it's really like a copy of the German model of educating apprentices. So that has worked out really well for us. We have said we do 10% of our staff. So right now, 47. We right now have 4 apprentices in our company. They go through in-house training and work and go to the associated community college here. And we see that as a big opportunity and investment in the future. We're very proud of our apprentices, so it's really fun to see them grow. And you know, we already have plans for them where we can use them in the future. So it's really been a great program. And then one of the other big success factors, I mentioned it a few times, is really the location here. I mean, Nebraska is not on the radar of many people, but it's this numbers that struck me. I mean, they were also shared on LinkedIn. I mean, some of you guys saw that probably. It is 1.9 million inhabitants. So not to confuse, it's not the city of Omaha. No, that's the whole state. So it's not a lot of people here. Anyways, we're not speaking about quantity, we're speaking of quality. So we're very happy with the ones we find. And it's interesting to see, you know, in numbers what the state actually does. And also what I like to see is like how much German investment here is and how much German employees. You know, I mean, 1,100 is quite a bit. That's 45 of us. And then there's Class and many other companies here as well. So the area really has developed into a hub for all kinds of different industries here in the area. And you see really this place is growing. I mean, Jeff Bezos is building his distribution centers here left and right from me. There's Google, there's Yahoo. And I want to say they're late to the party, but they're all here as well. So I don't want to say they followed Graepel, but I think it was a good move to go here. So we're really benefiting from a good environment. And with my 3 boys, I see the school system is very good. So we have excellent public schools. I can confirm that. So my kids are going to public schools here, and they're awesome in the area where we live here. Even at state universities and the community college that we work together with on the ICATT program and some other programs for higher education, that is really a good support here and a good combination of businesses working with the schools because they all realize what the workforce issues are and address them. And yeah, Omaha really, I must say, offers a high quality of life. I mean, it's interesting and it's not too small, it's not too big. It's attractive for locals here as well as for international talent, as I count myself into it. So overall, these are the things that really working out well for us. So that's even when we're expanding and as we're growing, we think we are in good hands here and in good shape. So that is basically concludes it. So happy I could give you a little bit of an overview about yeah, our company, our story, how we got here, and yeah, I can also open it now to questions and answers. If you have anything we'd like to ask or share with me. Maybe I hand it back to you, Mario.
Thank you, Mark. And also interesting to see, you know, one thing that popped out is when you mentioned how little time it took for you to set up your production facility, the immediate reaction was that I had is try that in Germany. Anyway, so sounds really good. We've got some questions here already, and I think, you know, since we're using the Zoom platform, is hey, why don't you just unmute yourselves and then just go in there? I see one, Mark Tompkins, go ahead.
Yeah, I threw it in chat, but Mark, thanks for the comments, and I love the kind of play-by-play as growing Graepel through the years, and obviously you've been that central figure throughout the time in Nebraska. But you talked about the great support from the state, but a lot of the companies we talk to want to go to the big states or cities, and they look at where can I get the big numbers. Talk about the advantages of being in, you know, a quote-unquote smaller state, at least in terms of population, that's growing, and were there any disadvantages of being there that might have hampered your growth compared to saying, oh, let's drop in a big city or something?
I think the number one thing when you start a new business, anywhere you are, you have to look at your market, where you want to be. And this was still one of the main factors. I mean, we knew that we needed to be close to our customers. And at that time, we really had ag equipment on the radar, and they were all in the area here. So within driving range. So that was one of the things. And then we could obviously decide which state in the Midwest we're going to. But we kind of like small and easy and pragmatic, right? And this is really what we found here in Nebraska. As said, the governor shows up, gives you your cell phone number, and you can call him and he picks up the phone and helps you out. So this is something that I should try that in Texas or in Illinois or somebody. I don't think I get him on the phone, not for a 50 employee company. And these are the little things that really impressed them, that made the difference. So of course there are things where, like, you know, if you look at financials, if you look at tax incentives, if you look at taxes in general, I mean, Nebraska is not the best state to do business in, right? By any means, but you know, we're never look at it from that perspective. So, but that's maybe also the advantage of being a family-owned company and having this long-term view, saying, you know, what is right, where do we see our opportunities, where do we see our customers? I mean, where do we find the right people? Where do we want to be, right? Who do we want to do business with? Like, so that's kind of like what we found here. We really liked.
Awesome. Christian Gaussmann's got a question. Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. It was very, very interesting. Curious if you had to adjust your sales process or anything you didn't expect when you came to the U.S. and started selling to U.S. locations or Americans.
Yes, I had to adjust. Of course, that's the short answer. No, I mean, my wife can probably confirm it. When I first came over here, I mean, a lot of promises were made by our customers, and if you do this, we can grow here and we can do that. So there was a lot of opportunity out at some point, or at different points in my career, where I said, like, whoa, these guys mean it really honest, so let's move forward with it. But then I pretty much learned a little bit the hard way. We have to wait until that signature is really under that contract before we move forward. So yes, of course, everything needs to be discussed and agreed. And you know, Americans in general are always very business friendly, optimistic, which opens your doors, which makes you start the conversations, makes you go in. I think that is easier than it is in Germany, but you know, getting it all the way from making the contact to closing the contract, I mean, that's a different story. So we had to adjust our sales strategy and our process. And one of the things that we figured out for us, which is working really well, is, you know, we usually sell over technology, over engineering. So we don't even have salespeople here anymore. So the people that sell our solutions or sell our projects are engineers. And I'm probably the one that opens the doors and keeps the relationship going. But at the same time, the industry where we're in, engineer talks to engineer, production talks to production, quality talks to quality. And that's what we really have established here at Graepel, that we have that level of communication between our plant and our customers' plants. And that's a difference, that we do that different in Germany than here in the US, but it's been very successful.
Great. Mark and Christian, hope you don't mind if I share that, but Mark, a little background information. I know exactly where this question comes from, because Christian Gaussmann actually has to do it the other way around. You know, as a US company, then all of a sudden trying to deal with Germans and German companies. And Christian, I still remember the amazing business luncheon we had last year when you were sharing your experiences, you know, with the weird Germans, and then all of a sudden developing a business model out of there. So
Yep.
I know where
Yes,
this
I
is.
was asking exactly the inverse to see if I could learn anything. So thank you.
Hey, maybe the two of you should get together and share experiences. That would
There
be
you
the
go.
perfect match, I think.
Oh,
Mike, there's another question. Oh no. No, that was answered already. Is there anything else you want to know from Mark Zumdohme here?
yeah, there's a few questions in the chat.
There is, and I see Bill. Bill just raised his hand. Yeah.
Mark, also thank you for the presentation. That was really good and interesting. I always find these startup, the whole stories are pretty interesting to me of German companies coming to the States and how they get established. My question to you is more on a manufacturing or product side. So what percentage would you say is really custom designed to, accommodate American solutions, and how much is know-how and transfer from German production and solution making?
That's a good question. So all of our customers are OEMs, so they do basically their own product development, product research, product design. So they kind of know what they want and where the parts end up and how that looks. We are more the ones that come in and say, okay, this is the best part solution, this is the best product solution, that is the best compromise for you in terms of looking at the design of the parts, the tooling cost of the part, the manufacturability of the part. We, of course, have that production know-how, how we can do it, because like every part that we make is custom for somebody.
Yeah.
So there's nothing like when we sell something, we cannot like open a catalog and say, this is what we do. We can only say we are the experts in the perforation world. And what if you need a step, a platform, a grill, that's what we can, do for you. But we also tell you, of course, what we can't do. But this is really the process is. And to answer your question, it is kind of a joint development. Sometimes it's like pretty straightforward. The customer wants this, we have solution that, and then we roll with it. But sometimes it's also like the customer starts with an idea, sends you a sketch, sends you something. And at the end, after 2 years, the product looks different because Graepel said we should do it this way because the engineer didn't know they can do other things, or they didn't know they can have it any different way. So there's a pretty good mix of that.
Yeah, that's good.
If that answers the question. I mean, we're more
yeah,
like
and
product know-how.
Yeah, and I assume that it would be very specialized, solution making. And is the, if pronounced this correctly, Claes still one of your customers?
Yes, they are like basically right behind me. I mean, there's really literally they are like half a mile down the street. That's where class is.
Yeah.
And it's been a good relationship and a good partnership over the years with them.
Yeah.
And the funny fact is they are also only like 20 miles away from our headquarters in Germany with their headquarters from our headquarters. So there's pretty nice.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because that, you had said they were established about 10 years before you established, something like that. And just to have that combination, that's really good. Really good.
It was huge for me. I'm honest there because there were German guys here over at class that I could reach out to and talk to. Not that the Nebraska economic development is not doing a great job, but it was pretty nice to have some German guys to, ask them how did they do things, how did they build up the business, and they of course had for us coming in as a new supplier, they had all kinds of resources, right? So that you could ask them, where to go and where to find things, and that was a big help.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you when we cut the ribbon for Deuter USA, the Colorado governor did not give me a call, or he did not show up. So you have a real compliments to you there and to them. That's awesome.
Great.
I would say to them, yeah, that's all on them. I mean, they don't have to do that, but they want
Yeah.
to, and they do. And it's not that we begged them to come.
Right.
That's their initiative.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's really good.
Great. It sounds a lot, or not sounds, sorry, it shows a lot of appreciation of, how valuable, any kind of economic investment is down there. So much appreciated. I don't have any questions here in the public chat. Mark, you might have some in the private chat box addressed to you directly. So if there's some in there, then if those are some questions you can address, that would be for the public, because otherwise I assume those people would not have chatted with you private, so in the private chat. Just scroll through it.
Yeah, I did. I just read that, and then
Gotcha.
Dave had a question here, and we can probably discuss that separately. That's an accounting question that would bore everybody else, I would say.
If that's why I was just like, pointing you to that, if you have something in your, Mark Zumdohme inbox, then just double check if that's, something you want to share here, because we very much appreciate everybody reaching out.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the public chat anymore. So I think for the time being, all questions answered, and looking at the time, perfect. Two more things. Please bear with me and please stay online. There's an amazing bunch of events coming up from us. So Franziska is just posting the link right now. I mean, here's what I had to do, with the technology and all of that. I just wanted to make sure that I have it. So I printed it out. Do not screw that up. I mean, within the next few weeks, it's only already worth 2 pages. So there's a lot of things going on. We've got business luncheons where we focus on artificial intelligence in the automotive industry. April might be a good one as well, where we focus on the latest updates in terms of immigration. Big topic, huge issue right now. There's our transatlantic webinar series, Success in the US. Have a look at that. And also our intercultural competency training sessions that we offer. Most important, and then I'm done, promised. March 18, our annual meeting of members. Make sure that you check your inboxes. That goes out to all of our members. You receive the proxies. You receive them electronically, so double check your spam folder, but you also receive them by regular mail. Double check, fill out your proxies, send it back to us, so we can elect our directors of the board of directors for that amazing event. And that's it from my end. I'm not going through all of the other events. Please check our website. Franziska just put it in there. Have a look at that. And looking forward to seeing you again in one of our next events.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And Dave, once again, thank you so much for staying with us and sponsoring the entire season here. Awesome.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.